5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban.
That should let ADROIT have to think about how to proceed with this draft.
That they will. I do love this opening from GEEKFAM. I think both those picks they've made, the Dragon Knight Pop is a very, very strong opening. And it is going to be very, very confusing here for ADROIT to know who's playing where. Both these players, Carl and Cuckoo, just love both these heroes. So it's kind of, yeah, it's really up in the air as to what lanes they're going to run. As of now, assuming the Ember goes mid, you'd go either one, really. It wouldn't really matter. Pretty much be the same story. ADROIT, they do go for the second pick, Phoenix, which is very, very standard in this current meta. John, it's been very, very popular. Especially for teams like Fnatic, even TNC, we've been seeing it a lot out of them. Just that POS 5 Phoenix. Sometimes the POS 4, but most of the time the POS 5. It's very, very effective.
Yeah, it gives you great team fight. The presence in lane is kind of hard to counteract, and in the team fights it forces you to focus on a certain hero. Still, GEEKFAM, this wasn't banned out. They do manage to pick the Morphling up, and we have seen that when played by Raven rather consistently from GEEKFAM. This is a pick they have gone into multiple times with or without the Shaker. So look to Raven again playing that core. GEEKFAM, they're gonna have to give him space, but their first two heroes do kind of indicate that they will be playing aggressive with Carl and Cuckoo anyway, so Raven should have that room. Rather strange way to go about the draft. It looks like they will close out with their support duo, which we don't tend to see too often, but ADROIT, they pick up the Venge. So you've got their support duo up in the front now, Phoenix and Venge. Not the most synergistic. There can be certain pickups for cores that really benefit from that Venge. Maybe we see something like the Medusa come out. I think we've seen that Medusa versus Morphling a few times, and it does feel like the Medusa can start to snowball a bit faster, especially when you are enabled by something like the Venge.
That is true. And ADROIT, they do have the option to pick it up right now if they so wish. Doesn't seem like it did too badly up against the Morph either. Like, we've seen that multiple times now, that Medusa versus Morph matchup, and it does really start to favor the Medusa as you go late into the game. Get through the mana pool and HP of that Medusa. But ADROIT, they'll have a think about it. It definitely doesn't seem like ADROIT's kind of style to run Medusa though, does it? Like, they love to finish games fast, they love to play fast. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing ADROIT play Medusa as of yet. But
yeah, nah.
I will have it now.
Yeah, again, you've got the Venge, you've got the Phoenix, we've seen this kind of combo before. This does force you to make a choice if ADROIT does fight. You know, are you going to focus on the egg and risk the Stone Gaze, or are you just going to run away and risk getting stunned by the egg? So there's a lot of back and forth with how ADROIT can run this. With a Venge, I don't think Medusa takes too long to come online. You just need levels on the Venge, points in the aura, and the Medusa can start to be a bit more active early on.
That he can. Okay, excuse me. The final band's coming out now. Beastmaster will be the band out there from GEEKFAM. ADROIT yet to make their final band, but GEEKFAM are seemingly still looking for a position 4 pick. Unless it's a pos 4 Queen of Pain, but they have left that Zephyr hero till last, it seems. Not 100% sure what they'll go for, but it seems as though ADROIT don't think that's the case. They get rid of the Nature's Prophet, so do you think support Quap is the pickup here from GEEKFAM?
I think Zephyr's done that a couple of times. I'm not sure how great that is with an Ogre Magi support. Like, that just sounds rather lackluster as a duo. There are certain gaps in the hole, but GEEKFAM's draft tendency is usually to last pick Cuckoo's hero. That's what we've seen a couple of times from GEEKFAM, so it could be that. They could just be trying to trick ADROIT into something here in the draft still. I honestly think the Quap off is fine. Like, Quap off, DK mid, it's a really early timer. You just need a support that kind of enables that. We've seen a lot of Witch Doctors that does enable a lot of early aggression, and that could fit in. Of course, Ogre Magi Witch Doctor as a support duo is a bit too selfless, but it can happen.
I like that. The Elder Titan comes out. I really do like this pick. Like, not only are you removing all that resistant armor and magic resist from that Elder Titan now, but he has so much team fight. With the Medusa as well, if you find yourself kind of stuck in the middle of everything as this Medusa, you can just kind of stop the team fight now with that Elder Titan and reset and reposition yourself and just go back into it.
5 seconds remaining.
Seems very, very effective up against heroes like that Queen of Pain and Morphling that love to be mobile and just get in the back and blow people up. That Elder Titan should stop things from happening like that. Even as well as that, up against the Morphling who has such high base armor because of all that agi he tends to morph into, that's basically all going to be removed by this Elder Titan aura.
Yeah, it's a solid pick to counteract that morph. Even the DK, of course, has that high natural resist that's going to suffer. So the team fight from ADROIT is starting to line up. I think the aggression that they have with this trio is looking pretty solid. The big question is, how much can Ben Soy get from the core ET? We haven't seen the ET in the core role in a while, but I think it still works out. It's still a very early time in hero, and you can get a lot done. So ADROIT, it does feel like they've drafted something that suits their playstyle. It fits into early aggression, early team fights, and if you let this draft get ahead, it's just going to snowball really hard. They've got the Medusa. You can't afford to fall behind here if you're GEEKFAM.
You may now select your hero.
Brewmaster comes out from GeekFam. I almost thought we were watching TNC for a second there. The Brewmaster's not something they've picked up as of yet. I don't mind seeing the pickup come out. It does mean we are going to see that position 4 Queen of Pain, so ADROIT were correct in assuming that. I don't know how to feel about it though. Like, the Tornado seems quite nice for Natsumi. You just Tornado the Medusa up, take care of everyone else, and then deal with the Medusa last, assuming you can win that team fight. But this draft, do they have enough to deal with the Medusa? Like, ultimately, if things don't go as planned in the team fight, which 90% of the time it doesn't, right? It's usually chaos in the team fight.
Oh yeah.
Is this enough of a draft to deal with Natsumi's Medusa?
It's a really early timer for that to deal with it. I think if you're talking about maybe 15 to 20, 25 minutes max, yeah, they've got enough to handle the Medusa. And as long as ADROIT kind of whiff the egg and the Titan spells, then you have an opening. But past 25, which is the tendency we've seen for Medusa, it comes online really early. Past that point, it can get a bit too big. You're talking about a lot of durability there. You're talking about focusing every hero on that one Medusa, and again, we've seen the Medusa Morphling matchup. Even an early shotgun from the Morphling, it's just not enough in terms of raw damage. So GeekFam has to play pretty darn fast. They have to maximize this Zephyr Queen of Pain, just play aggressively, ensure that Natsumi doesn't have a good time farming, and ensure Raven gets online fast, because again, you can't allow that Medusa to grow big. It just takes over the game.
See how it all pans out. It is game number 1 between GeekFam and ADROIT. Both these teams have looked pretty darn good over the past few days. Very, very close kind of matchup to start us off for today, I would say.
Yeah.
In fact, they're right next to it in the state in terms of standings.
That they are. And again, they've been really even in their matchups. Head-to-head is just 50-50. This draft is from each sides as well. Like, you've given GeekFam some comfort picks, like Raven having this morph. We've seen him play this really, what, I'd say 90% of the time, 80% of the time in the game so far. He has performed great. It's just, again, it's a tall order for Morphling up against Medusa. Just based on how that matchup went the past few days, the Medusa really just takes over. So it's down to GeekFam to play aggressive. I think one really important thing is Cuckoo's lane. They can't allow the Brewmaster to fall behind. Cuckoo needs to be ready to buy that space for the morph, to start chaos very early on.
Yeah, it all pans out. Matt going to be there up against Carl in that mid lane. It's not going to be the funnest matchup for this Ember. The DK can be quite frustrating to have to go up against in that 1v1 matchup. There's a lot of pressure here on Raven. He's going to really farm up quite fast in this Morphling. What kind of item build do you think this morph will go for? Like, will we see Raven go into that Sergeant Yasha build that we've seen Savage going too many times? Do we see the shotgun again? What do you think?
I think in this case, you don't have the Shaker, so you are usually just going shotgun straight up. Shotgun, I wouldn't blame him for maybe going a bit differently, maybe a diffusal just to deal with Medusa, but what we've tended to see is a shotgun. The only time they deviate is when you have the Shaker for the Ags. So it's really just going to be that shotgun timing key for Raven. He needs it up while the Medusa is squishy, because we've seen it once you have max mana shield. It really doesn't do much. It just tickles that Medusa.
Okay. I'm sure that's probably the way Raven will go anyway. Thought I'd ask, see if you had any interesting ideas for this Morphling to try and deal with Natsumi. In fact, every Medusa we've seen so far, I feel like has won. Is it 100% win rate right now? These Medusa picks?
You know, I think it has been. Yeah, I think it has been like over 3-4 games every single time. Medusa is just there. It feels like a lot of teams have forgotten how to deal with it. We're not seeing the punishment in the jungle. And again, it's down to GeekFam to shut the map down, because Natsumi, again, that space is going to be key.
They put him in the safe lane as well on that Medusa, so he's going to be feeling very, very safe. And that's CML right there as well, so he already on the bench Medusa in the same lane. He will be able to get out of there. Throws a stun out just before he gets out. It's not going to be an easy lane for this poor bench.
No, definitely not. It's just the Cinder Brew along with the Shadow Strike is pretty annoying to deal with. Still, CML, he's doing his job. It's not Natsumi copying this damage, and so Natsumi can continue farming up.
Right. That's the whole point. If you pause 5 knives a million times, it doesn't matter. As long as the plus 1 is farming, they don't mind.
Oh yeah.
Mid lane, it's a very even matchup as expected, John. Carl is currently one last hit ahead of that Ember. Not for long though, Matt's going to find that 11th one for himself now. We've seen Carl on the DK quite a lot over the past couple of days as well, and he has been very, very effective. I believe it was yesterday up against TNC, wasn't it? They just made it so TNC couldn't do anything towards them.
Yeah, it's really the tempo Carl brings for the hero, and the fact that, well, you can't really bully out the DK. In this case, I don't think the Ember Spirit's going to be as bad off, because you do have that Flame Guard to play with. You can burn through the armor just by staying in that lane, but it's still not going to be enough. Carl, once the Soul Ring's up, it's going to be consistent spam of the Breed Fire, and it's just going to be even.
Well, lane's just going very, very stable right now.
Radiant structures are
Like Raven
fortified.
is suffering a little bit in the safe lane of the Radiant though. It is a bit difficult up against the Phoenix or the Titan. They just deal so much magic up against this Morph. Of course, that is going to be a core Phoenix as well, by the way. That's not really something we talked about. But Ben Soy is taking farm and XP priority. Moving on the pos for Elder Titan. Because you don't need the core Elder Titan at all. He just does his job regardless of whether he's playing core or support.
Yeah, and I like the levels that Boomy went for. He skips the sleep this game, opts for the natural order again to counteract the tankiness that Raven has. So he's going to have to be really careful in trading hits, and this is just allowing Ben Soy to find a lot more than you'd want a Phoenix to. He should have good timings into level 6 and a pretty good time into that Spirit Vessel.
Look at this mid lane. Both supports from GEEKFAM made a rotation in mid, trying to go after Mac, but Mac is seemingly just fine. Seeing Mel's going to TP in and fill up his bottle. And that also gives him a salve as well, so he's going to be just perfectly fine in all this. They definitely want to try and shut Mac down, because we've seen over multiple games now, Mac really does tend to escalate beyond control if you don't take care of him early on. And speaking of, he's going to make a chase onto Carl right now. With that Flame Guard damage, he may have enough, but it does wear off. Had it kept going, I think he would have just kept chasing.
Yeah, this is one of the issues for the DK. Like, he does have natural durability, but Ember Spirit doesn't care for that physical armor. So the matchup's not the best. You did have a bit more leeway early, but it's just about time where Mac can pump up the damage. Once he has 6, he is most definitely going to try to find a kill.
Oh, absolutely. Top lane, CML, probably going to be the first blood here, and Zephyr does manage to pick it up. One of the very, very strong things about the pos for Quap is you can do things like that. You have the inbuilt blink. The Shadow Strike is kind of a ridiculous slow and a ridiculous amount of damage right now. You can really dish it out onto the opposing pos 5. Not so much the Medusa though, Zephyr. You'll have to back off, losing quite a bit of HP there up against Natsumi. Bot lane, so they are going to try and have a go here onto Raven. Boomy is diving now with Ben Soy. Icarus dive will land, and Boomy just really wants to keep chasing, but Raven will be able to waveform out of there. But he has really struggled, John. 12 last hits on this Morphling thus far.
Yeah, that's so low compared to her Medusa. You see, Natsumi's at 22. That's 10 CS ahead. And keep in mind, the Morphling does not clear camps as fast as Medusa would with a Mask of Madness. So Raven, every single creep counts in this lane, and he's just not finding that space.
Look at this bonus damage that this Titan has. Touch on. He's got 200 damage at the moment. That's the strength of the Astral Spirit in the laning phase. You just get so much temporary bonus damage. Raven is just continuing to have to juggle around with this HP pool that he has. He's not feeling very safe at all. He's got 2 Wraith Bands trying to build into that Morbid Mask, but it already seems like he's going to be relegated to just farm the jungle as soon as he does pick up that lifesteal. And even then, you already talked about it, but farming up against the Medusa in jungle is not the greatest idea, but you might have no choice here.
Yeah, it's just going to be limited for Raven, his presence going into this game, and this was really a key thing for GeekFam. They could not allow Raven to fall this far behind. You start to look at Carl to maybe get those early rotations. He does have the 6, but looks like he's just going to maintain that mid lane.
As the DK, I think you just want to push the tier 1 tower mid, right? You're probably not going to rotate as the DK until that tier 1 tower mid takes a substantial amount of damage. Mac has been doing a great job of making sure that wave never gets pushed in.
Yeah, it's
every time I look at Raven John, he's just dropping so much HP, and I have to look over again just to make sure he's not dying. But it hasn't gotten any better.
No, it really hasn't, and it's just going to be a really slow start for a Morphling. It does bring to question whether or not the shotgun's going to be fast enough, and that's going to be a really big thing to miss out on. Again, that early damage when the Medusa's weak is when Morphling kind of shines, and as the moment slips away, you should start to consider maybe a diffusal build into a right-click focus.
They just can't slow him down right now. Natsumi is just continually free-farming. In the jungle right now, this is that point where you hope Zephyr makes those rotations, and he does. Spots out the Medusa. CML's going to be around the corner. Zephyr, got to be careful here. CML can stun him, but he will blink away. This is what he does need to do. He needs to keep eyes on Natsumi, soak XP off him, and try to steal as much gold away as he can. But even then, Natsumi just throwing out the Mystic Snake with those neutral creeps, it's just so much damage. You can't really contest too long. You need more than one support to deal with this hero.
It's getting really tricky to handle that DOTA. I think you'd want to see Zephyr and maybe Cuckoo dipping out, or again, even Carl, who does make a rotation top. Looks like they do want to pressure that tier 1, but you've already dragged the Medusa away anyway, so taking this tower won't really stop ADROIT's farms. It's still additional map control that could come out for GeekFam.
Well, I think the idea is once they get this top tier 1, they go for the mid tier 1 and take over that jungle. But they do get started with the Primal Split. Cuckoo won't really find a target with that. He's just going to make sure they can secure that tier 1 without any kind of objection from ADROIT. And immediately Carl's going to TP mid and try to start forcing in that tier 1 mid. Zephyr will jump in, Dragon Tail there onto the Medusa, but Natsumi will take no damage. He'll just walk away. But Carl doesn't care. Once you have that tier 1 mid, at least you can slow down the farm by taking the jungle over of the Dire.
Yeah, it's not going to be an objective ADROIT can afford to give out, but they're not really rotating the heroes down mid. I think they understand that Carl is just about to tick out of that dragon form, and again, you've got the D push from Natsumi. It's not really going to die to just the DK.
No, he definitely isn't. He'll be fine. Arcane Rune, they're going to try and fight over it. Natsumi will just deny it off. Now taking another stun out from Carl. I just don't think he gets damage, but they have gotten through most of the mana, but now Natsumi turns around to fight. Bensoy is there as well. Egg being dropped. Zephyr is ticking out the damage, though he eats a Fairy Fire. He will survive, but no, the Remnants come in. Mac, he wants to clean up here. He does not kill off Zephyr. Sleight of Fist was not enough from the Ember Spirit, and in all fairness, it is only a level 1 Sleight of Fist. So now ADROIT, they try to force in the mid-tier 1, but you are up against an Ogre Magi. That means these towers are going to be very hard to take down.
Yeah, we've seen that in multiple games now when the Ogre is up. It just becomes really hard to force in those towers when the Bloodlust is up and running. So, gonna have to slow it down once more, ADROIT. It's been a rather slow game from both teams. 1-0 at 11 minutes. the lowest kill count we've seen so far in the BTS Pro Series Season 2, and that's really just down to the cores they have. They're saving space for Natsumi, and GeekFam is trying to do the same for Raven, so it's basically going to be a farm game for a while.
I think they just respect each other. I think ADROIT understand that GeekFam is a very, very strong team, and obviously understands the same about ADROIT. You just don't want to give that little advantage away that could escalate past the point of return. There'll be a smoke up from GeekFam now. They're going to run down to the bot lane. They do have Primal Split and they do have Dragonfall back up now, so they want to try and make use of it. Again, they'd love to find Natsumi, but instead they're going to run straight into CML, who will break the smoke, but they're not going to be able to catch him up. So GeekFam, yeah, they're not going to find anything out of this. And it seems as though they're kind of stuck as to what to do. Because you can't really escalate with this draft until that mid-tier one's gone. For GeekFam. It's defending it so well that you just can't even get close.
Yeah, they've got problems initiating as well. If they don't toss Raven in, he's their highest mobility hero, then the only person with a disable they can toss is Carl, but he's still saving up for a blink. It is just down to timings. Like, Zephyr could blink in first, but if you don't have the control, well, you've got two highly mobile heroes that can just run away, so the initiation's never quite safe. They do try to clump up mid again, though.
He's already falling low, but Cuckoo is going to jump in with the Primal Split. Now Matt's going to be in a bit of trouble. Losing HP there. Cuckoo, Sonic Wave, Zephyr. He connects on everyone, but they'll drop the egg. The egg is going to go down very quickly, though Raven is also there to help out with that. And they are just going to force their way into this Tier 1 tower. If you're not going to open the door, we'll kick the door down. But Mac is still trying to fight back. Natsumi's here as well. Another great stop out from Boomy. Cuckoo will die, however. Now Natsumi is surrounded, but he is still trying to fight back. Mac, meanwhile, finding Whiteman. He's surrounded as well. He should go down to Carl, and does. GeekFam is still trying to breach that Tier 1. ADROIT are treating this Tier 1 tower like it's their high ground Tier 3 tower. And it will finally go down.
Yeah, it's a big objective for them to take. Like you mentioned, this does allow them additional control in that jungle. ADROIT, very disjointed execution there, not really landing the spell combos they want. And you look at Natsumi, does have the Mask of Madness, but doesn't have the skill point just yet on the Stone Gaze. So the presence of the Medusa is not at its highest, and that is something GeekFam now is really starting to abuse. They pull ahead 5-1, a 2k net worth advantage, and you look at Raven, you know, he's still doing fine in farm, 300 gold ahead of the Medusa. How long that'll last? Probably not too long, as Natsumi now can clear out these camps a lot faster.
He is actually going into the Yasha build as well, that Morphling. So he's not going straight for the shotgun build. Which makes you kind of ask the question, what itemization is he going for now? Because is he going to build the Manta, or is he really just going to go into the Sergeant Yasha?
Yeah, it's really up in the air. I think if you are just going to go for straight right clicks, S and Y is going to be a lot better. There's no real point for the Manta here, unless you're really worried about the chains from Mac. It's been rather inconsistent anyway, and I think Mac has a tendency to focus on other heroes. So no real need for the Manta in this game just yet, unless you get worried about, say, the Spirit Vessel down the line, but you can just disassemble.
Nice little bounty rune still there from Pensoy. Now they're going to try and go onto Whiteman, but he will avoid the stomp from the Old Titan. Mac is out, now joining the side of ADROIT as well. When you go down to that bot Tier 1, thing with ADROIT, they haven't found any towers yet. They desperately need to get at least 1 or 2 going for themselves. Of course, this does tend to happen when you have a Medusa in your team. You kind of give up those towers and just continue protecting that Medusa till the late game. Not to mention, of course, it is still very, very hard to get Tier 1 towers when they have bloodlust on them like this. Like, how do you get through the tower? They just blip it up. Well, Max, he's trying to tank the tower hits. Now Booty will take over, but protect that creep wave from the siege creep.
Dire's top tower
And
is
eventually
under
they
attack.
will get through the tower, but then T2 top is being pushed in now by Raven. So he's going to TP in to slow this down. He does have the Veil of Discord up on the Phoenix, so it's a lot of magic damage being dealt out to Raven. We'll just kind of walk away from that tier 2 for now, but it already has been a substantial amount of damage.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
The way that GeekFam's playing their draft is starting to really hurt ADROIT. Like, they're starting to find the early momentum in the map. They're taking over that top jungle. They've got good wards watching that area and lane, although they do find Whitemon down bot, but that's just an ogre.
Yeah, it's just a nice, easy kill.
Radiant's bottom tower
ADROIT just taking
is
whatever
under
they can
attack.
get. Zeph are going to spot out Natsumi on that Medusa, who does now go into the Manta style. Top of the net workboard is Natsumi. Raven's still just behind him. He's trying to finish a Manta off of his own. Just really trying to get through that tier 2 top tower. I'm kind of surprised Cuckoo hasn't joined up at the top lane yet, but looks like he doesn't have the dragon form anyway, so he's just kind of waiting out and farming up himself. He is working towards that BKB, and no, never mind, he is going to start running up towards the north. I think if Carl was there initially, you probably would have already killed that tier 2 tower.
Yeah, would have been a faster take. Still, GeekFam are kind of happy to just take their time with this. They know ADROIT, they may be finding farm in Natsumi, but you look at the farm of Bensoy and Mac, it's not as great. Has been tapering off. So ADROIT is starting to pile all their eggs into one basket, although they do smoke up.
Oh, smoke can be broken straight away here on Whiteman. It's a smoke on smoke situation. What's being placed? ADROIT, they're going to loop around now. Natsumi trying to scout out, doesn't get stunned up. Natsumi now will get started on Whiteman, but here it goes. The stone gauge is there from Natsumi. GeekFam, of course, are still immediately back off. He's in a tornado right now, but Whiteman, he will go down straight away. Cuckoo still trying to deal with the threat of ADROIT, while Carl and Raven do come back in. Sonic Wave again, massive from Zephyr, hitting 3 heroes. They just continue to tornado up that Medusa. Natsumi now needs to back out of there. They've stunned him up. Cinderbrew there as well. He hasn't got any more HP and he will die. And that was the plan all along from the Brewmaster, John. You just constantly tornado that Medusa and she can't do anything anyway.
Yeah, it's been really, really good targeting coming out from Cuckoo and ADROIT. They're just not able to do anything about it. They might lose more if they're not careful.
Boomy trying to TP out. There's no stuns available, I don't believe, and he will be just fine to get out of there. So they don't actually go for that top tier 2 tower either, GeekFam. They just kind of keep chasing for kills and eventually back off the farm again. Just not really prioritizing that top tier 2 yet.
I think that's fine though. They are pulling ahead in net worth now. You're seeing the farm build up and Carl starting to pay off. Cuckoo's still lagging behind a bit, but not by much. He just needs to... Oh, he already has a blink, so you can argue that the Brewmaster's pretty much set. ADROIT, they still have to stall this game out. Their execution has kind of fallen flat. They just keep going for Whitemon first, and they throw a lot of spells out for the Ogre. They don't have the follow-up afterwards. Like, that was a really early Stone Gaze usage from Natsumi as well. He needed it much later when they were trying to commit onto him, along with the egg running. Those two need to synchronize to maximize their team fight here, and ADROIT's been forced to stagger them. It is hurting their potential, so just a tightening of that execution and giving more time to the Medusa to find at least one more item. The Manta style is going to help massively.
Moving into that bot lane now, GeekFam. Natsumi is going to be around to clear out the creep wave.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
ADROIT just sticking as 5 for the moment. No one to get caught out here. Mac going to start on Cuckoo. There will be a swap out on the Brewmaster as well. That will be a very, very easy kill. He doesn't have the primal split to really save himself. It's a great setup there from ADROIT now. This will buy even more time for the side of ADROIT.
Dire's top tower.
Yeah, definitely will. They do manage to finally take out that tier 2 top though. So the top jungle is completely gone. Natsumi's it's not gonna spend any time there. Does have the Manta style on the Medusa, so there's a little bit more stats coming out. Just a little bit more flexibility as well in purging off certain spells and dodging certain spells. So do you have that on hand? It's still, you know, not quite the strongest point for Natsumi. I think you'd really want to see the level 20 talent to be up and running. Actually, even just 15 is going to help a lot with the added mana gain. We've seen Natsumi just burn through that mana very fast. It's not a very tanky Medusa just yet.
Not quite yet. Yeah, they've built into that spirit vessel yet, but Zephyr on that King of Pain. He's currently just holding on to that urn. Not really feeling the necessity to have that spirit vessel up. It definitely helps quite a bit up against the Medusa, but no necessity for it yet. GEEKFAM, they're going to try for that Roshan now. Raven, of course, hitting very, very hard on that North Link. We'll be able to take it out, and look, Raven is working towards that Ethereal Blade now, followed by a Butterfly. Should have that Ignis on up fairly soon.
Just gives him a lot more presence in the fights, and of course that's a free disarm onto the Medusa, so a lot of value with that pickup still, even if it doesn't burst down, and that should give him even more control in these fights. So ADROIT, again, they've got to be careful about how they execute. You've got a BKB up and running on Karl now. So a lot of that magic damage that was burning through Karl earlier, not going to be a factor. It's going to be really hard to deal with DK. You don't quite have the physical damage up and running yet on Natsumi, so it's going to be hard to just handle Karl.
Right. Still sticking with 3 at the moment in this mid lane, just trying to delay that wave being pushed out. Karl going to jump in, pops the Dragon Ball, trying to go after the fence, and CML should die very easily. Low. Oh, it's my turn to disconnect from the game.
Radiant structures are fortified.
Yeah, just standard stuff. They are sieging the tier 2. Karl, with the Dragon form, of course, can pump out a lot of damage, although the creep wave is not really there, so you're forced to wait out just a bit.
You fought and died.
Dire's structures are fortified.
It's pretty choked out. Yeah, it's gonna stay that way for a while. Once Natsumi has not even a butterfly, but I think it's gonna take until the BKB for Natsumi to let off some steam and start to give space to his other cores. Before that, you know, it's just gonna be slow build up for Mac, slow build up for Bensoy. They still are about to hit some key timings though. Bensoy is just a few gold away from a low sword, though. Yeah, it's yeah, they're really just laying it onto ADROIT. ADROIT not quite playing as well as we'd expect them to. They are just streaming in one by one, and with those key kills, I mean, Carl is just on a roll. Yeah, it's perfectly fitting as well, of course. Dragon with a dragon scale, you would expect that. Still, ADROIT, I mean, it really is falling apart. It's a 5k lead for GeekFam. It's not quite the end of the world. It's not a massive lead. ADROIT just needs to hold this high ground. You know, this is where the Medusa can really shine if you play the stall game. It just clears out the high ground really well, and you've got good team fight up here. It's a tight area. Your Elder Titan shines, your Phoenix shines as well. You just need that to be up and running.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
No, they really can't, and ADROIT, they're gonna really just have to ride through the rough waves if they want. GeekFam now with an 8k lead. As you mentioned, they're just building up a lot better on everyone else. Raven's had good progress. He's approaching his own butterfly at a very good pace. And you look at Carl, he is opting for the S and Y now, and just for added right-click and durability. So a lot of things shaping up. I mean, ADROIT, they did finish up the Lotus Orb on Bensoy, and I believe the BKB of Mac is going to be up soon. Does look like he's flying that out, or... Yeah, I think yeah, there it is. So you do have a lot more potential to stand in front, but there's a lot that you have to pull off now. The map is shrinking, and GeekFam, they're starting to widen that lead.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's bottom barracks are under attack. Dire's bottom barracks has fallen. Dire's bottom barracks are under attack. Dire's bottom barracks has fallen. Dire's top tower is under attack.
Really is, and ADROIT, they bled out a lot in that last exchange. You look at Natsumi now, Mike, it's straight into the Divine. That's it. There's just no room for anything less on the Medusa. They need the Divine up and running. She does have the BKB, so Natsumi does have that added durability. Shouldn't be cycloned anymore. Really has to be able to be there to pump the damage out, to get the combo with the egg. They just need to land that every single time, and does feel like ADROIT's starting to find those tools, but the map is really dark. They just can't stick out too far, and GEEKFAM, one small misstep from ADROIT, they can really punish hard.
Radiant are scanning. Dire are scanning.
Oh.
Triple kill! Ultra kill.
Dire's middle barracks are under attack. Dire's structures are fortified. Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
Fought and died.
Dire's middle barracks has fallen. Dire's middle barracks has fallen.
Oh man. Oh, GEEKFAM. They don't need a rush. They're just gonna go straight for the Megas, and Mac is gonna have to try to hold out.
Dire's
Just the
top
two of them with
tower has
Boomy.
fallen.
They don't have their ults, they don't have the egg.
Under attack. Dire's top barracks has fallen. Dire's top barracks has fallen. The Radiant now have Mega Creeps. Dire's middle tower is under attack. Radiant victory. Dire team ban.
Back for our next game in this best of two between ADROIT and GEEKFAM. It is MLP DOTA and of course the lovely John X Fire. John, luckily sir, the cameras are working,
10 seconds
so
remaining.
your beauty and everything with it is back for us. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Mike. You know what's not doing great? I just realized ADROIT didn't set their team logo again, so
No, they didn't.
At least their names are reflected properly, so we're not going to have an issue there. Game 1, GEEKFAM did win out. They played aggressively. Raven recovered from his laning phase, and Cuckoo's Brewmaster just did a lot of work there, just completely isolating the Medusa, preventing that egg Stone Gaze combo from really kicking off. So we'll see if ADROIT fixes that draft. Maybe they go with something a bit faster that suits their playstyle. That was a lot more passive than we're used to seeing from them. I do like their ban outs. They take out the DK. That was a massive issue from Carl, which is very hard to deal with down mid. Mac did not lose in the laning phase, but he wasn't really that far ahead. So they probably want to get a bit of a more favorable matchup for Mac. And again, we'll see how ADROIT kind of correct their draft this time around.
Radiant.
Well, if I could, I was watching the chat a little bit after the game 1 ended, and there was a bit of conversation around the Medusa pick. People kind of, they're not sure where the Medusa fits into the current meta, because the current meta is really just fighting a lot, right? It's all about early fight. Who can take map control, who can get a lead. And we'll just quickly answer this question. Does Medusa fit the meta in your opinion?
I think it does. Based on how the cores play, yeah. I mean, we've seen this from certain core 1 players. Not Natsumi. It's definitely not quite the farming playstyle, but you see it with Raven, you see it with Savage, you see it with even Miracle, right? All sorts of teams go for a slower pace first pick. The Spectres, the Trolls, the Morphlings farming fast for the first 25 minutes. And I think in that case, it does kind of slot in. It's just that ADROIT were most definitely controlled. They couldn't really let Natsumi be in front. He wasn't tanky, so it's just probably really great execution from GEEKFAM. I don't think it's fair to say that ADROIT played bad. GEEKFAM played really well.
Okay.
So they just had ADROIT's number, and you do have a draft coming out. GEEKFAM, they do open up with a Beastmaster Morph. We have seen Cuckoo play a lot of that Beast to great effect. And of course, we just saw Raven's Morphling, and again, this is something GEEKFAM has continuously picked up. I don't blame them for going back to it. The Shaker's not been banned out, so perhaps in the next phase we see that. It can be a solid combo. You know, you can't ask for more if you get that option still. ADROIT, they do have the Enchantress in response to the Beastmaster, right? So you can possess those boars, make it a bit harder for the Beastmaster in the laning phase. And the Ember Spirit, we've seen Mac just do a lot of work, so I don't blame ADROIT for going back there, just giving him his comfort pick.
It looks good, at least for now for ADROIT. I personally hope they don't go back into the Medusa. I think it's Boom Esports that really makes that Medusa work, but that's kind of their playstyle. It's a 4 protect 1 for Dream Missile. Just give Dream Missile as much space as possible. ADROIT has so many talented players.
Oh yeah.
Their roster. Not to say that Boom Esports doesn't, but ADROIT has such a fast-paced kind of playstyle that I don't think that kind of pick fits them at all. And GEEKFAM with the Beastmaster Morphling opening, I think already tells you, do not go... You could go Medusa, but it probably is better if you just don't and go for some kind of other draft.
Yeah.
And we've seen ADROIT over the past 4 or 5 days, whatever it's been now, they just finished games in 20 minutes. They pick things like the PAs, the Chens, the very, very early orientated kind of fighting lineups, and they just snowball and run over you. We'll see what they do though. For now, that Medusa, if they so wish, is there to be taken. And some teams may look at that Beastmaster and say, hey, Medusa's good at defending high ground, and it's a Beastmaster. Maybe we should get Medusa.
10 seconds remaining.
It didn't work out last game though, so I wouldn't recommend it. And
5
well,
seconds
I mean, you don't have the Dragon Knight from Carl, so I guess maybe that's one part of that equation that's removed now from GEEKFAM. so maybe they would feel confident with the Medusa. I just doubt it. I don't think Adroit's going to bother with it. I think Adroit's going to go for something very, very different from Natsumi.
Yeah, I would like to see Adroit maybe go back to that comfort PA pick. It is a bit iffy against the Morphling. The magic damage Morphling brings out really early can kind of mess with the PA, so probably not the best time for it, but again, it's something Adroit's known for picking towards the end. They just love that PA mag. It's one of their staples, so don't blame them. They go into something really different though. The Venomancer, again making an appearance. We've only seen this really from T1 for 4Ev. It's almost always just 4Ev, but we do see it coming out from Adroit. I think in this case, you've got the Morphling. It's going to be riskier for him to juggle his HP. It's really just kind of a response to that pick, so you've got that way of counteracting his sustain very early on.
Yeah, for those that don't know how the Veno works now, basically what you do is it Gale that does it? Is it Gale or Poison Sting? Or even Poison Nova? One of his abilities basically makes it so any sort of lifesteal and regen does get reduced. So you get a Spirit Vessel, you use your normal abilities, and if you can, you get an Eye of Skadi. If you have Spirit Vessel Eye of Skadi on a Veno, they actually have minus regen. That's how bad it gets. So a Venomancer is very good up against a hero like a Morphling because he can't strength morph because he'll gain no HP, which is the main strength of the hero, is that he's just unkillable. But up against heroes like Veno, who can get the Vessel, who has that innate ability to not allow that regen to happen, it's very effective. Though GEEKFAM, they go back into the Witch Doctor now, and I believe we've seen this before. It was very strong last time we saw the Witch Doctor come out. I can't quite blame them. I questioned this hero earlier on the other day. I was wrong. I think it is a very good hero right now. And it fits the meta very well as well. Casts is kind of a broken stun, if you really think about it. Death Ward is pretty darn strong. Don't even get me started on Melodic, John. That's kind of ridiculous. And even the Voodoo Restoration. Right, we saw the Paralyzing Cast Voodoo Restoration build the other day. Which is something I've never seen in a pro game.
That did, and it was exactly against the Venomancer as well, where we saw that coming out from, I believe that was Boom playing that, so it looks like they do understand what to do against the Veno. His damage is still great, it's just the sustain Witch Doctor can bring you in lane counteracts that early damage. So it is a bit harder now for the Venomancer to maximize its laning presence. Again, we just saw that yesterday with Boom up against T1, and Boom did win that out with a Witch Doctor just from the sustain. It was very hard to bully that Morphling out. We'll see if Adroit can kind of manage that. They do pick up the Lycan for themselves, so they're trying to play a faster game. Right? This fits into their aggression, this fits into their timing, and you've got the Venomancer and the Enchantress to help you push, so it's looking pretty solid there. But GEEKFAM do get to pick up the Pango, and that gives them a lot of wave clear and a lot of team fight.
Going back to that Lycan, I do love that pick. They really didn't have the wave clear for the Lycan, and quite frankly, like you saw last game, Raven, he farms really quick. So they're not going to try and race him to the farm game. Rather, they are just going to try and push down towers so darn quick that Raven won't have enough time to really be able to farm up. And even Lycan being able to fight up against that Morphling, there's a good chance he does win out the fights. There's so many units that you have to kind of concentrate on. And you have a Venomancer already there who can just remove that ability to strength morph and get to, never die essentially. I don't mind the Pangolier pick coming out. I do believe that's going to be a mid-Pango though. And if it is, we've seen Carl play that Pango, but in all honesty, he does tend to struggle a little bit.
10 seconds
up against
remaining.
Heroes like that Ember when he is playing this Pango.
Dire team pick.
I can't remember when it was. It was 2 days ago or something, one of the earlier days of the BTS Pro Series. It just didn't work out very well.
Yeah. It's got its weaknesses. I think that was the Pango against TA, which we expected to work with a refraction, but the range advantage was too much. This time, the magic damage is going to be a bit much to eat through. I like how GEEKFAM's drafting though. They close out with the Phoenix. So you're looking at a lot of team fight, a lot of really good sustain. coming out from GeekFam's draft. If they play around with their ult timings, I think you're going to look at a highly aggressive match from GeekFam. Not the longest cooldowns. Egg is your longest one. Beyond that, you should be up and running fairly quick. ADROIT, they don't have the best control coming out for team fights. They've got decent single target control with chains and I guess Ench summons, Ench creeps, but not the most stable. So they're going to have issues catching people out, which you can rectify by just bursting them down. We have seen that happen before when we, I believe, talked about Boom again, where they drafted with no stuns but still found kills. So that's something ADROIT could try to do, but their last pick, I would like to see something with control. They go with the NP, so it's all in on the push. It's really all in on push. There's no control here. There's basically no team fight outside of Venomancer and I guess Ember Spirit's presence, but there's absolutely no control. All the team fight in the world. I think this is going to be pretty hard to pull off, considering GeekFam's wave clear just on the Pangolier. So they've got to be a bit careful in bleeding these creeps away towards Carl.
That is very, very true. In fact, never mind. It's a mid Beastmaster again.
Oh, okay.
I like that. We saw Carl do this before, I believe. And I thought it was kind of silly to start off. I thought, why would you go mid Beastmaster?
Remaining.
Actually works out quite well. He isn't going to be up against the Ember though. It is going to be Mac on the Nature's Prophet mid. So they do switch things up quite a lot. Moving on that
they do.
Ember.
Yeah, it's an interesting shakeup from, I think ADROIT's shakeup is a bit more odd. As you mentioned, GeekFam, we've seen the Beastmaster mid. It would have been a decent matchup, although against the NP, that does sound like a fairly straightforward farming lane for both sides. Both of them have summons. They're just going to be trying to shove the wave. The key thing is the timings for ADROIT. They've got to play this on point. Boomy's timing on something like the vessel, although you have Ben Soy you could build at as well. Either one into the vessel is going to be key to control the Morphling, to set the pace of this fight. And of course, Natsumi has to be ready to push as soon as he hits 6. You need to be ready to group up with Mac and Natsumi and take those early objectives. Otherwise, GeekFam, they might just be able to get a lot more space onto Raven again.
That they may. You don't want to give too much space over to that Morphling. He can become a real big problem, as we saw in Game 1. GeekFam definitely looking to try and get a 2-0 victory here if they can afford to, but ADROIT, they've been looking so great throughout the Pro Series, trying to force this out to a draw. Of course, ADROIT do have a second series straight after this one. And we've seen this over and over again throughout the earlier days where teams that have 2 series in a row, for some reason, always end up losing the first series, 0-2. And then it tends to just keep happening to them in the second series. So you want to have that kind of pattern start for them as well. You want to force out a draw, at least end on a high note for this series, and try to go into the next series with a fresh mind.
Definitely, it is a bit of a challenge playing 4 games in a row. It's not just in this, of course, but we've seen that in different leagues and different tournaments where it can take a bit of a toll. And mind you, Mike, we start at 12 p.m. Singapore time. That is lunch, so a lot of these teams, maybe they get a bit out of fuel midway, could use perhaps a little pick-me-up with a drink or something.
You might need a Monster, John. It's the only drinks we drink here.
Exactly it.
I love the fact that no matter what I'm bringing up as a topic, you always find a way to make it about lunch.
Yeah, it's again, like, I know, it's Southeast Asia, we're all about food, because there's nothing else there's not much in this region to make people happy, Mike. It's really just the food. It's a miserable place. The food is great, so you might as well dwell on that still. Both sides do trade 2 runes each.
You never get to work for the SCA tourism industry, John. You wouldn't be the greatest candidate, I don't think.
Come to Southeast Asia, we've got nothing else but food. That's one way to advertise.
Oh boy. Natsumi, you're gonna come a bit of harassment here. Whiteman gonna dish out a bit more just before that laning stage starts. He hasn't gone for the level 1 Feral Impulse, of course. He does go for the Wolves, which does mean he is quite susceptible to a lot of harassment out from the side of GeekFam early. But of course, he's going to have CML there on that Enchantress. And that basically guarantees you the win in the lane, even if you provide all this harassment to Natsumi. He's just not going to care, because later on, he knows this lane is just going to be free for him to take.
Yeah, it is, and Zephyr, once you run out of those fire spirits, you really don't have much of a presence for half a minute, so there's only so much you can expect from the Phoenix to help Cuckoo out. Still, Natsumi is off to a bit of a good start, and it's really going to be at level 2 when Cuckoo can at least have the disarm going in these exchanges.
Zephyr taking so much damage. Level 1 impetus, just pure damage is always very, very nice at level 1, and CML has it. It's up to the top lane. You'll see Ben Soy struggling a bit there on that core Venomancer. Boom, you're going to try and help out in that position for Ember, but it can be a little bit challenging in the earlier levels. You've only really got that slight of fist to spam right now. And that does tend to make it hard, though. Ben Soy going to get jumped on now. Raven's going to make the chase, though no, they won't quite finish it, but Whiteman, it won't be enough. He went back to the south cancellation, but Ben Soy does back off in time. But this top lane so far for Raven going very, very well, John. Top of the last hit sport at 9-0.
Yeah, this is not a great sign for ADROIT, just getting that done. Although they did land the Gale, but it's really not enough early on. You can see Whitemon as well, opting for the cast healing build. Just wants to sustain Raven in this lane. Just sustaining yourself is going to be a win.
Very, very true. You do need a lot of that regen when you are up against the Venom. It can get very, very hard to sustain yourself with that Poison Sting Venomous Gale damage. Of course, mid lane, Carl is there up against Mac, and it's the battle of the summons, it seems. Mac doing fairly well, and so is Carl. They're just trading very, very evenly in terms of farm at the moment. So bot lane, Zephyr is going to be able to find CML. I thought Zephyr was going to be the one to die there, but it's not quite the case. And she gets the first blood first, and now Whiteman goes down up at the top lane. Raven trying to fight back up against Fumi, does go for the wavefall and does get the trade. But now Ben Soy making the chase. Raven, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think overall GeekFam is still going to be pretty happy about grabbing first blood. Trading a Witch Doctor for an Ember isn't too bad as well, as, you know, that does give Whitemon a reset. He was out of mana for the Voodoo, gets to come back in with an additional salve, a clarity, and full mana means you can just heal Raven up, so I don't think GeekFam's going to mind that at all.
At what point do you think this mid-Nature's Prophet starts making some rotations? Because we've seen this over and over again with these mid-MPs. They haven't been working out for most teams that are running them. They do tend to just be very, very stagnant in that mid lane. Just trying to continuously push it in, but being defended most of the time. Do you think Mac is just going to focus on farming as every other mid-Prophet has done, or do you think he'll actually make the ganks happen?
I don't think you can expect too many early rotations from Mac. The earliest time we've seen NPs move around is level 5, and that's usually if there's a dive. It doesn't look like they're going to find that opening, and I think once you leave this lane, it's going to be very easy for Carl to completely take over. So you do have to watch out for where you commit. I think at this point, Mac is just happy to keep Carl in check. And that's going to be key. Just keeping pace with the Beastmaster ensures that he's not really shoving these towers down.
Bot lane hasn't been any easier, by the way, for the Lycan. At least Zephyr might die here, and no, he does barely survive. CML here left the lane for a little bit after that first blood. And that really made it so Natsumi just could not farm up on that Lycan. Now catching up very, very quickly though. I suppose the one positive is with this Lycan is you can just pick up the Necro 1 book and then really just rotate into the jungle and catch up very, very quickly.
Yeah, and Natsumi's set to have a pretty decent pace into that Necro Book 1. He's not doing too bad in the last hit score though, 25 to 11 ahead of Raven, although the pressure from Zephyr now.
Yeah, they're going to gonna go. They do actually get a kill to Raven top lane, but Natsumi does go down to the bot lane. Zephyr also losing his life. Now Wyman gonna be chased down by Ben Soy, trying to make the TP play, and he will make it. But Raven also going down up at that top lane is not good news for GEEKFAM. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but ADROIT, they do manage to find him.
Yeah, this is a pretty topsy-turvy start. GEEKFAM not going to be happy with Raven, but they also found a kill on the Lycan. So in the end, that's kind of an equal sort of priority trade still. Raven's just about to hit that point where he can pick up his Morbid Mask, and once he has that up, he could basically just leave this lane. You know, it's starting to be an issue with Ben Soy. Did opt for the Poison Sting and Gale build, so you're really just not getting that sustain this time around for the Morph. And I think, you know, just wait for the Morbid Mask and try to go into the jungle and let Whitemon cop the hard lane. He needs EXP anyway.
CML going down to the mid lane. Looks like Carl just committed a roar. Does secure the kill for himself, and now Boomy's going to rotate over. Mac is there as well. They sprout up. Carl's trying to TP, and he will make it. Boomy committed the chains to initiate that little engagement, and it does not pay off. But they can try to focus down this T1 mid tower a little bit. Mac does have a lot of trees going right now, so he can definitely apply a lot of pressure. Forcing Zephyr to try and defend this on the Phoenix, but now CML's joined in as well. If they do find this mid tower, things could get a lot worse here for the side of GEEKFAM. However, Zephyr can take a lot of damage. Does end up going down to Booty, but now the rotation's in. Carl will be there with Whiteman. Cuckoo also TPing in, and Booty should end up dying here on the Ember. They do manage to protect that T1 tower from really just going down.
Yeah, they find a nice little pickup as well, killing off that Ember, although they do lose Ben Soy. We're not going to be happy with that, and yeah. This is a constant issue for ADROIT. TPs are overpowered, Mike. You don't have anything to stop them.
Very true. I mean, that being said, ADROIT does have a free TP in Mac, but Mac was just a bit too late to the party.
Yeah, it's been rather static, as mentioned. He is doing the rotations now, out of mana, and doesn't really have his Nature's Call, so you're not going to have additional treants still. With a Lycan, towers still melt pretty fast.
Slowly but surely. Natsumi now has the Necro 1 book up, so this is when the pushing really does begin. Mid lane, however, Boomy does go down on the Ember. Carl once again just finding another kill for himself. He didn't have to commit the Roar, so he can actually go into CML if he really wants. They definitely want to start trying to find some trades on these towers. Meanwhile, Cuckoo bot lane forced to roll and TP away. Trouble there down the bot lane on the Pangolier. That Roar, I think ADROIT is doing pretty darn good so far with this draft. They are starting to group up into that mid lane. You'll see Natsumi just taking stats away from the side of GEEKFAM. There'll be a lot of farm being robbed from this dire side. You should be able to just collapse mid with this Lycan Nature's Prophet very, very soon.
Yeah, and it's really going to be key to find these early towers. Every single time when you have that Lycan draft, just want those early objectives, and Whitemon...
Does try to paralyze the cast, but it will not matter. With that Witch Doctor going down, it's going to be even more of an opening now for ADROIT. And this is getting worrisome for GEEKFAM. They have not found one T1 tower yet. No trades going on for them. This is exactly what they did to the side of ADROIT last game. And now, Ed coming out. This is going to go down very, very easy. Zephyr just trying to delay things. Now Cuckoo with the Rolling Thunder. Roar committed by Carl. They do find Matt. Natsumi, the Wolf Ball, will be able to run away though. No, he wants to go back in. Carl, Wolf Ball alone, and does go down. Cuckoo now swashbuckling away, and that should be enough. The 1-for-1 trade on those mid-heroes. Zephyr does also go down to the Phoenix. But overall, you'd call that a win for ADROIT.
Definitely is. They found the objective they want. They can start eating into that jungle that GEEKFAM has, and they are start to balance it out a bit, although they do drop CML. Even then, ADROIT, I think they need a lot more work done. They're finding the objectives, but you're starting to see the same thing happening from game 1. Raven's just left alone. He died once in lane, but he's having free time farming up now. You can't allow this Morphling to go unchecked.
No, that you can't. Raven going to be working towards that same build. He's just going for a Yasha first.
Is under attack. Radiant
When he goes extra stats, Yasha is great value for a small and medium item. Into that T1 bot tower. ADROIT can choose to defend this though, so not going to be too big of a problem for them. They will bring in some heroes though. Immediately Bensoy gets jumped on that Witch Doctor. The Deathward blows up Bensoy, and now CML going to be in trouble. Going to be trying to jump onto Wyman in the background, but that won't matter too much to the side of GEEKFAM. In fact, Wyman, he's still alive. He does finally go down, but now Gumi has no mana left, so can't really run it out. That'll be a 3-for-1 trade. Gumi just spending so much time trying to get through that Witch Doctor HP. And it's that Voodoo Restoration again, John. He just buys so much time for Whiteman.
It really does. You can't underestimate the sustain a level 1 Voodoo Restoration brings now. It just does a lot, and they lose 3 heroes, they lose the bot tier 1. You're not finding enough across the map to compensate. Natsumi's just kind of farming up, which is fine, but you're trading a lot for that farm. So GEEKFAM gonna be happy with how these set of events are unfolding, and honestly this game, I wouldn't mind Raven actually going for the Manta style. Once you have that up, you can just purge off everything Bensoy has. Then suddenly the Venomancer doesn't do anything. You only have to worry about Nova, but Nova doesn't really kill you because it's non-fatal.
Holy crap, Natsumi found fast. He's got the Necro 3 off.
Yeah, he
does find Cuckoo.
Did skip boots, Natsumi, so it was a dead rush.
You never go boots. There's no point to it. You already run so fast as it is. That is a quick Necro 3. Now well, he's top of the net worth for it. He has been focusing on farm quite a lot. But with that Necro 3 up, you could really start applying a lot of pressure here on GEEKFAM. I don't think they can respond to it.
They've got to be a bit cautious about that. I think they do have some ways, if they're lucky with the bounces on Whitemon, and they just manage to take out just the right amount of creeps around Natsumi, got an opportunity to perhaps trap him in. Can't underestimate the damage Whitemon can do with Maledict and the Death Ward. So it's just the issue of clumping for Natsumi, just has to watch out for that, but for the most part GEEKFAM has been ignoring him. They've not really kept the Lycan in check. GEEKFAM's just been focused on Raven, and it looks like they're just happy to let the Lycan kind of build up.
It's time for Natsumi to start pushing down more towers though, I think. He, of course, is going to build into the AC by the looks of it straight after. Maybe the Helm of the Dominator first though. He wants to add on that extra creep. See ADROIT smoked up the top lane. They're going to see Zephyr on that Phoenix. Zeph's the only one there right now, so they'll just jump in, chains out as well. He can't even start wave the moment, and well, gets the egg off. He's in trouble, and he does go down. That impetus hit was so close from being there, and now roar out. They are going to kill Bensoy as well. That is not great news. You have such a quick Necro 3 book on Natsumi, but he can't use it because his teammates are dying around him.
Yeah, the execution again for ADROIT just not quite being there, and with those sets of kills, they go straight to the pit. GEEKFAM knows, without all these heroes, there's no way you can really contest as ADROIT.
It's a big loss. So this Lycan 100% wants that ace. He'll try to get this line with the wolf, but doesn't get it. It does go down prior to the wolf getting there for the Aegis. That's just such a shame. ADROIT has lost so much in the span of a minute. Yeah, if you're GEEKFAM right now, John, you are sitting very, very happy.
You definitely are. You're just building up. You've given Raven all the space. He has been keeping up with Natsumi. Now he's slightly ahead. So that morphling is going to be an issue once more, as it was in game 1. And GeekFam, you know, they do play better late. They're not depending on an early spike from a Venomancer. They're not depending solely on objectives and Whitebond.
Yeah, Deathward no, just doesn't get out of range. He dies to that. Natsumi's gonna find the traitor, or maybe not. Wyman's still alive. He does eventually go down, but Cuckoo, or Carl rather, has the roar up in just a second. Then Soil with Zephyr gonna go down. Now the light is being brought up, and they burst him down in time. Cuckoo with the wrong thunder now stunning up. They will get Natsumi, and Boomy, he's gonna try and make a run for it. In fact, no, he'll fight back. I don't recommend it though. Max in trouble. He will go down, and now Boomy really only left there with Ben Soy. He's trying to run it forward. Carl is falling low, but Zephyr is giving him up. Now Ben Soy, he just came to the team fight, but he's gonna die straight away by Cuckoo.
Radiant structure.
It's just not good news. It is definitely not good news for a droid. You look at Raven, John, he's farming this whole time. He wasn't even there.
Yeah, he's just about to finish up that Manta style, and suddenly the strategy with that Venomancer falls apart. You're just not going to have any effect on his HP regen once that's up, and right after, Raven's not even going to be satisfied with that. He's actually just going to go for a full BKB. So you really just lose any way to control, though. Oh, no.
This is very awkward. He had the anti-morph going as well, Matt. The perfect timing there with that Orchid. Raven will lose the Aegis. That is a bit unfortunate. It happens.
Yeah, it happens, and I don't think Raven's going to be too upset, though. Again, he's just been farming up, and he's just going to keep farming. He doesn't really care. He's going to finish the Manta stall, go into the BKB, and at that point, ADROIT, they have to be a lot more punishing towards Raven. They need to be able to find that target. They need to win these fights. They need to chain their spells out, you know, get the Poison Nova on top when the fight breaks out for max damage, but they haven't been able to clump up properly, and it's causing them issues. This is kind of the same issue we saw in game 1. They had big team fight spells then that they couldn't really get out staggered properly, and here in game 2 they're just streaming in one by one. They can't afford to do that.
Their work lead only about 1k the way of GeekFam right now. So very, very close. Droid, they are grouping up mid. They're going to smoke up. Be a big team fight.
Radiant are scanning.
But the problem is GeekFam have also smoked up at the exact same time. They're going to run straight into each other. Carl will have his smoke broken, so will Zumi. Zumi now shows himself going to the blue wall, paralyzing Caster down from Whiteman. And he'll be chased down straight away. He does go down. Now Cuckoo rolling thunder onto CML. Got Lofty Enchantress. Carl is under siege by all these creeps at the edge. Right on top of the cliff. Nobody can take it down, and it is going to explode. Zephyr now the Sunray onto Natsumi. He's in big, big trouble, and he will die here to Cuckoo with a swashbuckle.
You are up against.
And I thought it was such a great fight for the side of ADROIT to start with, but it just turned so quick, and now they'll lose Ben Soy as well. Just not the way they wanted this draft to go, and well, Mac, he just TP top. He just said, screw the team fight. I'll start pushing top tower, guys. I'll see you later.
Just a really good team fight again for GeekFam. Zephyr with the egg up the cliff, giving them a lot of space there. And on top of losing that fight, Mike, you know what else ADROIT lost? ADROIT lost an Impala. It fell on the ground, they picked it up, so just losing a tier 2 item on top of losing all your heroes. You lost one tier 2 item, a really big one in that Impala.
Gosh. You get Cuckoo mid lane. Yeah, Reagan's holding that Impala right now. So that is a very, very nice item to have in your pos 1. It does add a lot of damage on to the already existing damage of Raven.
It does. You know, I'm actually curious. Didn't they set it so that these items doesn't drop when an enemy's in range? We've seen this twice now, where it was Miracle yesterday who gave away a telescope, a keen scope, and Raven picks up an Impala. Like, that should not be happening. These are massive swings for any team that loses it. You know, these items are really important, and this is going to hurt ADROIT. Even if it's just, you know, tier 2, that's a nice boon for GeekFam.
That it is. I don't know if it was meant to be fixed, John. There's a lot of things that have been meant to be fixed. Haven't been. Bit unfortunate at the CML, John. He just misses out on the enemy sentry and puts an observer ward down right next to the sentry of the Dire. Look at this. 2 sentries surrounding the sentry of GEEKFAM, and they're just right outside of the range. And that obs will get dewarded very, very quick by the side of GEEKFAM. However, trying to Natsumi down to bot lane. Nice easy pick off there for Natsumi. He does commit the wolf bomb for that.
Dire's top
now the top tier 2 tower does go down as well. So although ADROIT have been losing these big engagements, they're not really that far behind. They are still very, very capable of pushing down towers very quick with this draft. And if you are GEEKFAM, you can't really just take it easy. You have to keep up that pressure.
Oh, definitely. You can't really allow ADROIT to bounce back with those objectives, and they have kept the net worth pretty much in check. Just a 2k advantage for GEEKFAM. Not the biggest. And GEEKFAM right now, again, it does look like they're just waiting for Raven to really be ready. He's saving up for the BKB next. Is just about the recipe away. So once that's up and running, with the Manta, with the BKB, Raven's just not going to be controlled at all. I think that's really just the win condition for GEEKFAM. Sitting it out, they know that ADROIT needs these early objectives. And the fact that they've been stalled out for this long with a Lycan draft, you know, the timing's not amazing. It's not the worst yet. There is certainly room to grow. But you do start to wonder, is Natsumi going to be able to hold out against the Morphling down the line? Very recently, it hasn't seemed like he can.
I don't think you can, not as a Lycan. You can try. The only way I Morphling late game is if he makes a mistake. Unless you get that Orchid off while he's Agimorphing, which we did see earlier on, which was obviously very, very effective. I mean, in all fairness, you do still have Ben Soy there on the Venom who can really stop all that regen happening in the first place. But the problem is Ben Soy is just dying so quick during these fights. He just isn't really having any impact.
No. You've seen this with a Venomancer multiple times. Like, as soon as you approach the 25-30 minute mark, they just lose relevance. They're just not a factor. Still, looks like ADROIT does want to find something. Raven's right there.
The wolf bomb gonna come out, Natsumi's gonna make a chase. TP into the outpost now, but could be in trouble. He has to maybe pop that egg early. He won't yet. He'll just hold it out. Matt trying to go on to Raven. They're gonna go after that Nexus Prophet now. Egg will be dropped in the middle of all this, and now the roar comes out Carl. He does kill off Bensoy again. CMO will go down as well. A double now Matt trying to TP out there, but Cuckoo with the good old drive-by jump ends up finding him. And now GEEKFAM, they find a triple kill for Raven. And ADROIT are falling apart here. They're trying to push out that top lane and force them back, but it's only booming.
Radiant's
It's an
bottom
Embister.
tower is under attack.
Yeah, he can't do much. He went for Tranquil's Yields. He's really not going to be dishing too much damage out. They take the tier 2 bot. You can get some chip damage with that siege creep, but it's really not going to amount to too much. Now, GEEKFAM, they finish up that BKB on Raven. Even if Ben Soy lives, you're really just not touching his Morphling. He is just going to get what he wants in all of these exchanges.
Dire's top tower is under
Increasingly
attack.
bad news here for ADROIT. Not to mention the Roshan's up. Now, as a Lycan draft, you always want to get the Roshans. Because that's what your hero does best. Well, they're going to fight this. I don't think they can let GEEKFAM have this for free. They're just already too far ahead to have an ace on top. Raven getting catch down now. Doomy and Cuckoo's going to have the Rolling Thunder. Won't connect. Nice dodge out there from the Ember, and now the fight starts. Natsumi pops the wolf bomb. Raven still trying to find a target to roll on. He will just have to roll away, it seems. Carl getting caught out there on the Beast Master, and now Matt popping BKB. Raw going to be there onto Ben Soy. Wyman does end up trying. The team fight is very, very Natsumi ends up going down the high ground. Carl will go down as well, but they'll also lose Ben Soy on that Venom. Now CMO going to get chased back. No, they want the Ember. They want the initial target they went for in the first place. He will not remnant, he will die like a man. But Raven's gonna double again. He's currently 13-1 on this Morphling. And it's back to the Rorschach here.
There's no way you stop it now. You've thrown everything out. From ADROIT, it is going to be a free second Roche for GEEKFAM. Did cost them a buyback on Whitemon, but I mean, come on, it's a Witch Doctor. His buyback's not really the highest priority anyway, and that was a lot of value just to ensure this Roche. So they do find the objective they want, and they even get the deny in their bot T1. Mac can't even find that goal.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Now CML. Pouring chances. Is going to get caught out. Does heals up. Won't matter. In fact, it wasn't even no heals. They just double heals for the fun. Just to give her a bit more air time. So, nothing wrong with that.
Whitemon, can you go for this?
Yep.
You can!
Guess what? Bensoy gonna force stuff out. TP immediately as that Melody can do a lot of damage.
Wait for it.
That's just not a good sign though. Your plus 3 is scared of a plus 5 Witch Doctor. It's just not how you want to be playing this. Even comes by, gives him the cheese as well. It's like, here you go. He won it. In case you're in trouble, have some cheese. Therefore, gonna get rules off again, but there will be a remnant out. Boomy gonna remnant out again. Raven is right behind. Once he gets that slight bit change, it's not to get it as well. He's gonna try and use up now. It should be fine for remnant out of there.
Precious bump.
Man, GEEKFAM is just finding a bit too much off the map now. 8k advantage, 17 to 30. It's at this point where I'd argue that Lycan drops off. He drops off really hard. Still saving up for the AC on Natsumi, but the rest of his draft, the rest of ADROIT's draft, just centered around his objectives, and at that point, your Venomancer is tapered off, your Lycan still has damage, but isn't enough to face up against Morphling, and now?
Mac, you gotta run, sir. BKB now. They won't have enough damage. That mid T2 tower is gonna be a little bit in trouble now for GEEKFAM. They are gonna start forcing it down. Up to that top lane though, Natsumi has sent his units onto the tier 3 tower. So this might force the side of GEEKFAM back. They do glyph. But of course those units are going to go back to that glyph, and now Booming is going to show up. T2 mid does go. GEEKFAM, do you want to TP back or do you want to try go high ground? They are going to try and go high ground. So it's a bit of a base race going on already between these two. ADROIT not really backing off, but just going to force Carl to back up. That tier 3 tower very low. He's unable to find the roar. Meanwhile, Booming will just TP right in front of the tier 3 and does get away. Now, Zephyr was on top of Natsumi. He does have the Yules up, but decides not to use it. I guess there's no real point anyways. You don't really have any help around. But that is actually a little win there for ADROIT. They do get a substantial amount of damage onto that tier 3 tower.
Yeah, and they hold on to their high ground as well with that play. So, you know, they're hanging in there. They're forcing GEEKFAM to really think twice before committing for any further objectives, although Raven now just gonna chip away at the tier 1 for free. Has been up for a bit too long, and perhaps look at that tier 2, although their wave is pretty far out. And you still have Natsumi cutting that wave.
That tier 2 tower won't give him enough to just buy out the butterfly. In fact, he's just gonna go to the jungle now, and he really just doesn't have any waves to farm. So ends up skipping the shotgun this time around, just wants pure right click. Perfectly fine. Does have the butterfly up, and look who they found. And he has no wolf form right now, so he is just dead. That's a high ground attempt.
Radiant's middle tower.
Whitemon.
They're still trying to push in the side lanes here. Matt forcing in that top lane. Same was being done by CML down at the bot lane, but they're not backing off. They are going to this mid-rats. Booming gonna run the back now. Raven already has that many barracks basically taken out. But the backdoor protection kicks in. Now silence is there from Matt. He'll match that off, but they can't finish off the rats yet. They need more creeps. The Sunray is there to heal up that creep wave. One creep still alive. They've only got so much time to take his rats out, and they will get it. Now the fight is on. Raven's going in as that Ender Spirit form. Roar is there on the Boomy. He will get blown up. GEEKFAM down to the bot lane. Buyback there from Boomy. Natsumi has respawned. Therefore, Icarus dive in. Another silence out onto the ball. He does still hold on to that Aegis. Slowly but surely that T3 is dropping, but Raven, he doesn't want to push things too far, but they are not letting him go. They want that Aegis at least gone. Spirit Vessel on top of them all. Still dying. Aegis expires. Raven, he needs to get out.
No.
He does have the cheese. He will pop the BKB and just try and run. Still trying to run. Matt will pop the BKB now. Boomy going to make the chase. All onto that morphing. He is strength morphing. Silence is there. Poison over. Gale. Everything being thrown out. He's in trouble. Raven, he will die. But now the egg is there. And Cuckoo rolling away with the rolling thunder. He will leave Zephyr behind. The egg does explode. And Zephyr will try to get one final kill onto CML. And then just get himself off the map. He will do so. He'll TP out successfully. At least he did find Raven.
Yeah, I'd say that's still a fairly successful defense for ADROIT. Despite losing their racks, they still found a tier 3 top with a bit of a split push. They find a big kill on that Morphling, and they're keeping it a bit in check. They still need a lot of work on the map to really turn the tide against them. You know, you've got the AC up and Natsumi, saving up for the BKB, or Lycan can still get some work out, and without Raven, GeekFam, I don't think we really want to fight right now.
Oh, wrong. No, he's just going in. He does not have the Sunray. The roller damage not Natsumi. He will just get toasted by that Sunray. Chains out though from the end now. Boomy trying to set up. Whiteman somehow still alive within this team fight. Zephyr is going to die. Whiteman will die as well. And although you found the Lycan, you definitely did not want to give up this much for that kill. But Cuckoo, man fighting, Boomy gets a triple now on that support Ember. Charles going to be in trouble. They do have TV cancellation there with the Yules. And Boomy, turn around, CML will be the one to pick up that kill, but now Raven's back. He will 1v5 him if that's what it takes. But maybe that wasn't a good idea. Matt, no, he's going to TP up. 4-on-1. They do not want to bother with Raven right now. They will just let it go.
Yeah, but those are some really good pickups coming out for ADROIT on the back end of that push. GeekFam just, again, forcing fights when they shouldn't have. Raven was not there. I'm not sure why you went for that roar. You found a kill, but you've lost everyone else. That does stop the push, though, from ADROIT, so I guess taking the Lycan out did stall out ADROIT's push attempt, which does mean you get yourself a bit more time. Just would have rather not lost 4 heroes in the process. Still, ADROIT, they are slowly building up. Boomy saving up for a Lotus Orb. Once that's up and running, he does get a bit tankier, and if you do ignore the Ember, he can really pump out that damage. You see Mac going for the MKB just to deal with the Morphling, and Mac has picked up the pace. He is dealing a lot of the damage for the team, him along with Natsumi. I'd say right now, Mac is a lot stronger in terms of just raw right click, so you're looking for a solution to that morph. This is it. It's going to be the Nature's Prophet with the Orchid. And we have seen Raven get himself in spots where he doesn't have the Manta and he doesn't have the BKB. Has to be careful about using those items. He needs either one off every single time just to ensure that he's not going to be caught out.
Raven's going for an Eye of Skadi up next, so he's just trying to tank up even more and make life even harder for the side of ADROIT. Again, we see Matt still pushing that top lane, trying to force GeekFam back. GeekFam may feel comfortable to just keep going down that bot lane. Zephyr is there to defend on the Phoenix, and does do a very, very good job of defending. Quite hard to get through that Phoenix, especially with those Fire Spirits. Spirits just end up nodding. Boomy, no chains out. Did miss. And while they have that T3 tower down at the top lane, they just can't get past this Phoenix.
Yeah, this is really stalling out ADROIT's push, but at the same time, GeekFam without Zephyr in fights lose a lot of their teamfight presence. They need the egg around, and they need the Sunray for sustain. They need the damage from Fire Spirits, and as long as he's up here preventing this push, you're really not able to find anything as GEEKFAM as well, so it's just a stall tactic from ADROIT to ensure GEEKFAM can't make any advances on the map, and this is gonna buy them time to farm up.
I don't think GEEKFAM mind having time as well, though. Again, you are still trying to finish off that Eye of Skadi on Raven before you want to go back. I think both teams are also waiting up that next Roshan, which is going to be up in about 10 seconds from now. Expect a big team fight there, but ADROIT, they have smoked up early.
Invisibility.
Eye of Skadi now going to be there on Raven. Onto the Roshan. Tree scouting that out for the side of ADROIT, but they have the Hawk there as well from Carl, so GEEKFAM know about this, and they are going to rush straight to the Roshan pit. Now again, this is a Roshan that ADROIT can't really afford to give away.
And
going in towards it.
yeah, you're gonna need Zephyr around for the egg, but
onto Mac, who got caught out there. He tries to BKB, but Kuku has a back shot. Backing through the BKB. Can he find one more? He doesn't need it. Raven does end up getting killed, but now Natsumi's down. Carl, Wyman trying to channel the death board, but he will die. Kuku down for GEEKFAM. No buybacks available. Natsumi runs out of wave, runs out of the wolf form though, and now Raven jumps in with the wave, bursts him down. Matt can't afford to die either. He just fought back on that Nature's Prophet. Kuku's going to try and keep him controlled up with that Rolling Thunder, and Raven will chase him down. There is a Yule's there. Zephyr also in trouble, does end up dying with the Phoenix. He can buy back also, but there goes Matt. It's a dieback on the Prophet. Raven's on a triple. He's on an ultra. He wants the rampage. Ben Soy cancels the PB. He doesn't know what to do right now. He is surrounded. He'll get the rampage and the morphling. All the tips coming up for Raven. And on top of that, the cherry on top, he still has a Roshan.
yeah, it's that's it. It's a free Roche now for GEEKFAM. Third Roche of the game. What a refresh. So they can have the double egg. That's going to really help GEEKFAM find these fights, and I'm not sure why Ben Soy canceled this blink. It didn't look like he was stunned. He did just cancel it out. I'm sure Raven's happy about that. Does get his rampage of the game. And there you go. Refresh onto Zephyr. So you're going to have to contend with this egg twice over. And you just can't. You can't focus on the egg because you have to be aware of Raven. And Zephyr's positioning has been on point. So GEEKFAM, they find a lot from that exchange. They found a couple of diebacks. Big one on Mac, and they can just go straight in.
Raven, he might go for tier 4s. Nope. Going down the bot lane.
is under attack.
They know the buyback top there on Mac.
Radiant's bottom tower.
I believe they also know Ben Soy did buyback earlier on.
Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
He's just short of gold right now. They do have a repair kit, but it's not really going to matter, it seems.
Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
So that's the secondary racks going down. Now up towards that top lane. There is still a tier 2 tower. So no megas to be had yet. They are going to go ahead and clear out that tier 2 now.
Dire structures are falling.
Movie going to be there to try and clear out the creep waves. They've missed them off. Now Movie going to be chased down. Zephyr there with the burn for the fuels and Raven. Going to have damage? No. The Remnant will be out just in time. But on top of all the items Raven has now, he has the Satanic as well. I couldn't have asked for it at a better time, as you are going high ground for that final lane of rats for ADROIT. They will repair kits, but Raven can easily go through it, but instead he does want to go after Boomy. They use him up. Cuckoo rolling thunder, not coming out in time.
Radiant structures.
Sun Raven, they keep Raven killed up and keep going to that tower. Now Matt does BKB, will go through it, of course, the egg is there as well. Just going to be able to get the full egg duration off. CML about to die as well. The double kill is there for Raven. He's just going for more kills this morning. He doesn't care about the tower. Ben Soy, going to be the next target. Maybe a triple? No, not quite. The kill will go to Carl. But Raven will keep going. The BB has been called anyway. Another egg to drop from Zephyr. Right by the bounty. It's a bit too bright inside the house of ADROIT and GEEKFAM. They showed up today, John, getting a 2-0 victory over one of the top teams here in region.
Yeah, they managed to show up and continue that streak over ADROIT.